Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 4 and Super Rugby AU Round 1 review. Brought to you by New Zealand Sports Radio. And boy, twice the action. Do you think it's going to take us twice as long? Think it's going to be a 2-hour show? I hope not. But Cornflake is nodding in the background. So we welcome my guests this evening. We've got Cornflake from the Deep South down there in Invercargill. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very, very well. Nice and toasty and warm down here. It's always sunny. And where I've got the yellow cap for another, just what I say, perfect week of picks here. 4 out of 4 this weekend. Ooh. 10 out of 10 in total now.
That means that he did. Yeah, that means. But then he also means that he picked against his heart. He picked against the heart.
What can I say?
It's about the. It's all about the money.
It's all about the money.
And obviously, as you can see, Arswin as well, joining me from Auckland. How you doing, sir?
Oh, doing well. Listening to the wind whistling around the house, which is awesome. I like a bit of good weather rolling around the house.
The highlights of our life.
Yeah, it's as exciting as it gets.
I've got the heat pumps on me. I've got the electric throw blanket. I'm good. Nano blanket for me. Good evening, Alex, and good evening to everyone else who is in the live chat. Let us know what you thought of the games from the weekend. I've got a funny feeling refereeing is going, or discipline is going to come up in some of the conversations. Also skills as well. We kicked off, and boys, I'm suggest we go through this in chronological order. And we kick off first off with Queensland Reds versus the New South Wales Waratahs, all the way back on Friday night. First off, Cornflake, isn't it great to have Friday night footy?
It is great to have Friday night football back, but it's a bit of a shame it's in Australia, isn't it? I mean, it was an exciting game. The Reds, I picked the Reds to win this one, and it was pretty much against the run of what most other people were thinking about this one, but I was quite impressed with how the Reds played, given the young squad they've got, the young team, and how they play it. And it's that Brad Thornton sort of style rugby, isn't it? My way, highway, get lost, go home, or play with us. And the Reds delivered, I think, pretty well. And it was good to see them actually show up.
Yeah, no, they did. They played a lot better than I thought they were going to do. To be honest, but the bookies definitely agreed with you. So the bookies had the Reds as favourites, even though I went for the Waratahs. I thought the Reds, as you say, that the highway, my way of the highway thing, losing those 3 players, including Rodder, who was lined up to be captain at one point, or people thought he was going to be captain. So clearly an influential player for them. But no, it wasn't to be. You've got to wonder though, what have the Tars been doing for the past 3 months? Because seriously, it's not been paying any attention to rugby, because they were all over the shop. 18 penalties in this game for the Waratahs. Not in total, that's just for the Waratahs. The Reds gave up 9, which is a fair chunk in anyway. But the Waratahs just couldn't get themselves onside, and really were an absolute mess, to be honest with you. The Reds should have won this by more. Let's be clear. 5 lost lineouts. They were hardly perfect. There, as Alex, Aaron says in the live chat, AU was a very hard watch, and Alex says that Aussie games were very disjointed. But it was round 1. It was, yes, you're true. It was round 1, and we learned a couple of things about the laws in this one, because they made law changes, but they didn't bother to tell us what the law changes kind of meant. So part of that was, for example, you can't pass back into the 50 for a 50-22 kick, a bit like you can't pass back into your 22 for a kick out on the full. But that wasn't anywhere in the rules. So it was interesting hearing the referee talk about that all the time. You're like, okay, does that mean something? Why is he saying that? So there was that point. And I don't remember them saying that 22 dropouts had been removed entirely. So if you touched it back in your own in goal from it, when it's kicked over, then it's a dropout from your own goal line. couple of interesting pieces there. Apparently, listening to Green and Goal Rugby, you can take that drop out from anywhere. It doesn't have to be under the posts on your goal line, but it has to go 5 meters. So you can't just tap it over.
Oh.
So new laws add nothing to the game. I don't know. At least it was still rugby, right? It didn't destroy. It didn't change the game from being rugby, which I think a few of us thought it might end up being, just basically being kickback, but it wasn't.
Well, I think I mean, like we talked about not trying to make the show 2 hours, so we won't go down that rabbit hole. But I'll use one example is that touchback behind, in the own dead ball area, old school back to the 22, having a dropout from the goal line. What does that add to the game? Nothing. And in fact, it only encourages kicking to the in goal area to cause the opposition to force within the in goal. It's not our game. It doesn't add anything to rugby. It comes from rugby league where it's got its merits. In rugby, it doesn't have its merits.
What it did, though, that was confusing for the Waratahs, is it gave James O'Connor something to aim towards, because he was adamant he was going to hit one of them. And as soon as Tate McDermott hit that, it was a 50-20 tie, I think it was, he just shut off it. He was gone. He didn't try another one since. It's like that was his goal in the game. And then McDermott hit it, and he's just like, what on earth? That was my thing. And he's just like, no, stuff you, so I'm done. But I mean, he was really going for it. He was gunning that first half.
Hey, much like Scott Scrafton, sort of like, my goal today is to get a red card.
When I can't be replaced as well.
So the one thing that was reassuring for me, though, was that the Australian commentators are still absolutely bloody awful. So a few key ones then. Was it this game? Was it the actually, it might have been the Brumbies game, but going through the team list again. Oh yes, Kellaway, he's in fine form. I'm like, what do you mean he's in fine form? You've not seen the guy play for 3 months. How do you know he's in fine form? And then also towards the end of this game, someone going, "Is this the start of a new Reds dynasty?" I'm like, seriously, one game where the opposition couldn't do it, basically gave you 18 penalties, and you're suggesting suddenly from that it's new dynasty. Here we go, folks.
Yeah, look, I just like this. I sort of think it is only one game, and it's just like I don't think you should use the excuse that it's the first game of the tournament either, because if we go back to Super Rugby in New Zealand with the restart, it's just like it's basically started almost bang on from the first game sort of thing. But just to go back to that, Reds dynasty, it's just like, well, you if you're a Reds supporter, you got to, Shane over in Oz, you got to have a bit of confidence, because they were actually starting to sign some good signs, but pre-COVID, the team was playing some good rugby before COVID came along. So I think if you add that into the mix, then you can say, look, there's hope there for Reds rugby, as opposed to Waratahs, which are going backwards.
It had been 7 years since they had beaten the Waratahs, and like 11 meetings or something silly like that. So, I mean, it's a pretty big deal for the Reds to pick up that win.
Yeah,
absolutely. But I think it was to suggest we're on the this is the dawn of a new dynasty. I think was wishful thinking, but yeah,
the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Let's see a little bit more evidence than that. You are right, Alex. There are there are a lot of good quality young players, or promising young players in Australia. Full stop. Right, beaten the New Zealand schools team for the past couple of years, made it to the final of the Junior Rugby World Championships last year, where they lost to France. Yeah, look, there's a lot of young good players. The question is, can they bring them through, and can they keep them? But yeah, there is a lot of promise from a playing point of view. Administration-wise, let's not go there. But from a playing point of view, there is. Austin, you look like you're about to make a comment.
Oh no, yeah. Look, I was just going to say, it's something that you alluded to in one of our previous rugby shows. The Crusaders aside, that's what every side in Super Rugby struggles with, is the fact is that, yep, they look like, oh yeah, they're making progress. Players are developing. They've got young youth coming through, But within 2 or 3 years, they've been picked off and they're off to Europe, sort of thing. So, as I say, as you said and alluded to, a Crusaders aside, every team struggles with maintaining the talent that they're developing, and then obviously having that continuity or going forward so that you can build strength year on year.
So congratulations to the Reds, 32-26 winners in this one. A few less errors, and I think they'd have won it more convincingly. The Waratahs seriously need to get the discipline in order, and essentially learn where the offside sign is. The offside line is. It was just appalling.
It's easy to sit here and bag the Waratahs, and what I'd love to sit here for 2 hours and bag the Waratahs, it would be very enjoyable. They have got a couple of quality players, and Will Harrison is a guy I think they definitely is going to be a massive talent. Now, that was a pretty uninspiring backline that the Waratahs put out in their performance. They really didn't look like they were going to do much, but he looked composed, he looked in control, and he looked very, very good. And I think Jack Maddox is a guy, for your 10 and your 15, they're going to be two critical parts of that Waratahs team is going to do anything this season. So, Will Harrison, definitely got to keep an eye on. I think with the way that the Australian setup is at the moment, guys like him and Lolosio at the Brumbies, that's the future of Australian rugby at 10, and those guys certainly have to play a lot of rugby and get that experience, and it looks promising for them so far, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And that back row of Wright, McWright and Wilson, three very young guys there at the Reds coming through, which is also good to see over there with and Will Harrison there. Look, he's playing with Jack Walton, with Walton outside him and being fed by Short. Again, two players not very experienced. It's very different to having Curtly Beale outside him. I've gone blank as to who the injured Waratahs scrum half is, but
Gordon?
Probably Gordon.
Jake Gordon. Yeah.
Who's got a lot more experience than Short has. So he's doing it with inexperienced guys around him as well, So I've been very impressed with Will Harrison so far this season.
It's good that gives him freedom as well, which I think helps him because he doesn't have that pressure of Curtly Beale probably demanding the way he plays. He can probably go out there with a bit of freedom to play his own game and maybe as a 10 can direct it how he wants rather than having these experienced guys at 12 and 15 and all around him and other places telling him how to run his show. So it's kind of, I think, going to be good for him to grow in that sort of area.
Yep, absolutely. Alex also says that Hooper doesn't exactly show the best discipline. No, he can also upset referees as well. He doesn't have the best. He's one of those ones, who can get on the wrong side of the refs. Actually, let's do that right now. TJ Piranara.
I was putting my hand up just to say that. I was sort of thinking, you can see the difference that a captain or senior leader, senior players in the team, the difference that they can make. Because Piranara kept his lip buttoned today. And I think that it just makes such a big difference to the team. You didn't. You don't think he did?
The referee at one point go, I'm just not listening to him.
Oh, I missed that. I honestly, watching the game, I didn't notice that I wasn't focused on the first half, but the second half I was sitting down watching it. But I felt that he seemed to be a lot more calm and collected than he just seems to, like in those previous games, he's got so worked up. And you can see it in his face and his actions and everything. He seemed to be a lot more calmer today. But I missed that comment. Sorry.
The referee also told him to go away at one point. But,
right.
But
maybe they're just getting it in early because they know it was coming. So like, TJ, hey, game hasn't started. Go away.
and someone else had to go sort of mention the ref about talking to I'm just not listening to him. It was like, okay. But he probably was quite calmer. Anything else, or should we move on to the Highlanders versus the Crusaders?
Oh, I've got a lot to say about that one, so I'll wait my turn on it.
All right, looks like we're moving on to the Highlanders Crusaders.
Do you want to have first stab, Ashwin?
Yeah, look, I think one moment in the game summed up the whole game, really. And yes, I did see the tip tackle, Steve. So it wasn't missed by everybody. But
three of us.
Yeah, three of us, exactly. No, but look, one moment in the game summed it up, and I think it was Naraki. I've said his name wrong, but you know who I mean. And he doesn't pass the ball early enough when you got two men unmarked on the outside. the Highlanders were always going to have to take every chance that they had, and that sums it up in terms of there's a golden opportunity. He stuffs up the pass by holding on to it too long. That would have taken them into the lead, and obviously we know how moments like that in the game are game changers, and that would have put them into the lead by 1 point and possibly 3 if they got the conversion. And they basically, he said that's the game in a nutshell in terms of the Highlanders had to take all the opportunities that they had, and they didn't always do that. And then I also think in that last 20, they actually did run out of puff. There was nothing. You could see that there was nothing left in the tank, and you do wonder the game the previous week how much that actually had an effect, because that was another big game. They've had, you basically come up against the 2 tournament leaders in a row, and they've had to put a big one in, and you'd have to say the depth isn't necessarily there. You take a look at Makeli too, and who you're bringing to replace him. Aaron Smith got pulled and Kane Hamilton. You're trying to win the game. I'm sorry, there's just daylight between a Hamilton and an Aaron Smith. As good as Kane Hamilton is, he's no Aaron Smith, and they needed to have all their gun players out there, but they just ran out of puff in the end.
I think on that passing move, he had 2 choices, didn't he? He could either have stepped off his foot and come back inside, and I think the tackle would have missed him, or he could have passed it quickly. He didn't do either and got nailed.
Look, you look at that actually. We're obviously jumping from game to game, but you look at that Geordie Barrett today in the 4th minute try, and it's just like he looks that the defense is rushed up and just fires it out to Cobus out out wide, who's got no one on him, and as the commentator said, had a week to pick up the ball and run across the try line. So that's the sort of heads up play that you need, especially when you're playing someone like the Crusaders.
Yep, we'll get on to Geordie Barrett because I think he had a particularly good game today. But the cornflake gone. I'll let
that leash off. Let him go.
Let him go. You can have the whole screen.
Oh, jeez. Where do you start? Where do you start on this? There's 1,010,000 things you could talk about. I agree with what Ashwin said. When Nareki missed that pass, that was a decisive part of the game. And 100% you're right. But I don't think they ran out of puff. I think they ran out of desire. I think that passion just out of the sails went the whole wind. Aaron Smith completely lost his get up and go when they went to take that whatever they took the kick. I think after that they all sort of ambled their way back. Just that excitement, that drive disappeared out of the team at that point. So that was really the winning and the losing of that game right there, no question about it. But to talk about referees, we talk about more, I think, that the Crusaders. And the Crusaders are a team that, love them or hate them, they have, in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, changed this game. And they've taken the laws and they have found a way to exploit them consistently. And they did it to a perfect show against the Highlanders, who I don't know completely over 60 minutes how they're even in that matchup. The fact that they can go into a ruck, tackle a guy, and have 2 players go past the tackle, block guys coming to clean out the ruck from their opposition, whilst their 3rd man takes the guy out on the ground and in a split second get a penalty. No one's thought of that yet. And that was massively game-changing.
I'm going to butt in there for a second. It's just like, everybody just basically said you're just a sad, or to a Blues fans, you're just sad Blues losers when we used to complain that we're getting the rough end of the stick from the referees. Now people are starting to get it, like the Canes have been complaining the last few weeks. The Chiefs are now there. And mate, against the Crusaders, this is what happens. The Blues have been facing this for years, mate. This is what's been going on.
Is that illegal, though? Is that illegal?
It's not illegal.
I'm not saying that was...
It's pushing the limits. It's absolutely pushing the limits.
No, that's not what I'm going about the referee about. I'm saying that is the Crusaders evolving the game. They've spotted these rules. They've played 2 games, watched 3 rounds, and they've spotted a way that they can actually just get that first guy to the breakdown a second before the cleaners can. And just that little hesitation that they have to make going to that breakdown of going, oh, you're in the way, is enough to bang, and they got that penalty. And it's not technically illegal, and that's what you've got to give them credit for. That, I think, decided that game, because that was so much possession was turned over based on that little thing. Incredibly frustrating as a fan of the other side, no question about it. But that is just incredibly smart that they have just figured that out in the space of 3 weeks of watching it, that they can manipulate the laws to that sort of way on their side. It's just, it's just madness. Absolute madness.
And the fact is that I think what it also gave them in the game is that they just a lot more composure out the back of the ruck, right? And the fact that they never looked rushed in anything that they were doing. There was an element of trying to play the game at pace with the Highlanders that was evident, whereas the Crusaders just seemed to be playing it in slow motion, yet still making meters.
So Aaron says, surely taking players out without the ball is illegal. Now, there's a difference between taking out a player and just standing somewhere that
Annoying.
You're just annoyingly in the way for a split second. And so, yes, technically, are they offside? Well, no, the ruck hasn't actually formed yet, so they're not offside. All right, actually, yes, they are, because there's been a tackle, and so
yes,
technically they're offside because the tackle actually resets the offside line nowadays, not the forming of a ruck. So technically they are offside, but look, you're not going to get called for that, and you're not going to get called for taking out a player when actually you just stood somewhere and someone bumped into you. That's not a people bump into each other all the time. Couple of interesting stats though. The Crusaders gave up 15 turnovers to only 8 by the Highlanders, but the Highlanders had to they attempted 220 tackles. And they successfully made 178, which is twice as many, or nearly twice as many, than the Crusaders. And that's really why they ran out of steam in that last 20, is because they just had to tackle so much. Now, I loved watching that Highlanders defense. I thought it was working really well, because for me, what you saw with that defense was, and we actually spotted it the night before the Waratahs were attacking the Reds. The scrum half goes for a wraparound. The pillar defense gets dragged out. In comes the inside ball. The guy collects it and runs through totally unopposed to go and score a try, untouched. That wouldn't happen with the Highlanders because they're trusting each other inside and out to make their tackles and to mark their man. And you didn't see, especially during the first 60 odd minutes anyway, you didn't see the Highlanders, the players, sort of get pulled out to create spaces because they trusted each other, and that connectivity across that defensive line was fantastic. I really enjoyed watching that. It's a bit nerdy, I know, but
what a nerd!
It was good to see that, and I thought that was very strong. That shows a level of cohesion amongst this side, which with a lot of new players, I think is commendable to the what do you call it, coaches.
Yeah, I think apart from the fact that the score blew out, so it make the look like the game was easy, but nah, I think the Highlanders proved that they're definitely the third best team in the competition, and so the top 3 are well ahead of what we saw today.
I said at the end of that match, no one's going to beat the Highlanders at Forsyth Bar this season. That's it. The Crusaders been there; they'll probably the only team that could possibly do it again. I don't think the Blues will do it, not at Forsyth Bar, and the Chiefs and the Hurricanes. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs already lost there, right? So it's just the Hurricanes left to play at Forsyth Bar. Yeah.
This was still a 1-score game 5 minutes out, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly 14 points in the last 4 minutes. Boom. This was a 20-26 game, right, folks? Yes, it's still a Crusaders win, but this was a losing bonus point performance by the Highlanders for me, even though they didn't quite get there. And it doesn't look like that from the end scoreboard. 2 players I think we need to call out. One, Aaron Smith had a great game until he was taken off. I think that point you're saying, Archie, about him having to go probably. I can't remember if you did the full 80 against the Blues, but yeah,
he did the full 80. I'm pretty sure he did the full 80. Yeah.
But yeah, he was just off on his feet, so he had to. That's why they had to take him off. But the other guy, Frizzell, really did roll back the years. Now we're talking about a guy who's only like 23, 24, but he showed form. He showed form of like 2 years ago. Right.
I wanted to break into Simply Red.
Sorry?
I wanted to break into Simply Red, rolling back the years.
I thought Frizzell had probably his best game since 2018 for me.
Yeah,
yep,
no,
can't argue.
Yep. Can't argue with that. No, look, as you said, Frizzell and Smith. I mean, it's Smith. we just lament the fact, geez, wish that was there in 2019, don't we? It would have been a different ball. Honestly, totally different ball game. The games that he's played, whether it's all of the games he's played since return of Super Rugby, have he's been outstanding, absolutely outstanding in all of the games that he's played. And Frizzell on Saturday night was immense, and you saw what earned him black jerseys, which has been missing.
Yeah, let's be honest about the style of game that's played now in Super Rugby Aotearoa. It suits Aaron Smith down to the ground. The fact that he can get there fast, he can bullet that ball out. He gets fairly clean ball generally because it has to be out there. It has to be recycled. This suits him just so well. If this goes internationally like that, this sort of style, he is going to be just killer because that just suits the way he plays. It doesn't matter if he has a good game, bad game. He's just effective like that in that sort of style. But Frizzell, he's been building towards this the last 4 weeks, 3 weeks before. He has been building to this, getting better and better and better each and every week. And this game, he just exploded. And it's great, too, to see that he's doing against the Crusaders. Because it's easy to say, oh, he only did it against the Chiefs. He only did it against the Chiefs. But to do it against the Crusaders, it just shows just how next level he's become. And if he can keep that up again, I mean, certainly there may be more black jerseys in it for him later on in the future. So it's great to see. And he's matching Makaele too, isn't it? Great to have a 6 and an 8 that are just
work together,
barnstorming it. Yep.
Work together, absolutely working together, 100%. I was just saying, look, go back to the Aussie game. We're jumping around games, and this is like, you know, what the New Zealand Super Rugby competition is showing is the fact is that there's no need for new laws. It's the old laws being properly adjudicated is what was required, and we're seeing that in the New Zealand system, and it's like that's all that's required. We don't need to have Mickey Mouse laws introduced to the game to make it a good spectacle to watch. We're seeing good spectacles with the laws that we have.
Now, can we give a bit of a shout out to Mitch Hunt as well? I thought he was really, really good at leading that team around. He probably didn't get the recognition, but I mean, he was up against probably an on-fire Richie Maonga in his best performance as well. And I think he held his own pretty well.
Totally agree. Yep. Do you think he got pulled at the end, didn't he? And got replaced by Bryn Gatlin?
Yeah.
I felt that I think they had to pull Collins off. They needed the points. They were 6 points behind. I thought Collins had to come on, and they needed to bring Gatlin and have him keep Mitch Hunt on the field. They needed playmakers out there. They needed to create something. And as sturdy, as stable, or as Michael Collins is, the reason he left the Blues, or ended up leaving the Blues, is that he didn't get game time. And the reason he didn't get game time is that he doesn't make mistakes, but at the end of the day, you still need to bring something to the game, X factor of some level. Otherwise, you're just a player running around doing the basics. It's not enough, especially against someone like the Crusaders. You might get away with it with the Chiefs.
Oh, jeez.
This is harsh. So Jordan Clark makes a comment there. Notice how top 3 teams all have Crusaders connection.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. Look, that's fair comment, really. Fair comment. But I don't know. I think Tony Brown makes a big difference with the Highlanders. I think there's been a change since Tony Brown's joined them. He joined them towards the back end of pre-COVID. He wasn't there at the beginning. I'm pretty sure of that. And his hand all over the imprint of the play post-COVID. Well, it's not quite post-COVID because COVID's still around, but you know what I mean.
What are you doing?
I thought he was getting hot in his nana blanket, but no.
Here I am. I've got the shirt on for the game today, and you just dear. No, my nana blanket is keeping me nice and warm.
What is going on?
So moving on then. So after that, we had the Brumbies versus the Rebels. Now a game of 2 halves. I'm going to wheel that one out. I got on Twitter and I had to give these 2 teams some coaching tips because clearly they really did need the help. And so here's the hint for the Melbourne Rebels: stop going for the ball at the ruck, because they kept getting penalised for it. And just wait for the Brumbies to knock it on because they couldn't hold on to it. Then you'll get a penalty at scrum time, and hey presto, you get yourself down the pitch. That was pretty much it, wasn't it? The Brumbies just couldn't hold on to it and kept knocking it on. Their scrum, amazingly, was considering they've got a Wallabies front row, was under all sorts of pressure. But the Rebels at break just didn't know how to deal with a ruck and were just blown off the park.
It was a game of two halves. You're right. In the first half, I was trying not to look at my phone. I was trying to watch the game, and in the second half, I was trying not to nod off. I mean, honestly, it's just like it is a hard ask to watch that game after watching the Highlanders Crusaders game, because that's what happened, right? And look, that's why I sort of think, we talked about with the Waratahs Reds game. It's the first game of their rebooted season. I did air quotes for the people listening on their podcast for their rebooted season, but I think it's professional era. There's no excuses now to actually not come into a game prepared and to play a game like it's not a preseason game. We actually see it in Super Rugby now. The last few seasons in Super Rugby, the teams don't have those early season games where they're knocking on and lots of mistakes and that. And I'm sorry, but this was just, it's like and that's what was made it a hard watch in that first half, and you drift off. And just like simple basic mistakes and the like, and poor game plans and the like. Just that's all I can say. Sorry.
Look, and again, look, another situation where they didn't get. And look, and I know Archie said, look, you've got to be on it from the off. 16 penalties for the Brumbies, 12 by the Rebels. Again, getting used to the new focus around the ruck. Now, hopefully, we'll see those numbers come down over the next 2 weeks, like we've seen in Super Rugby Aotearoa. Is we had a lot of penalties, a lot of blowing early on. Now, this has been excessive. But again, it didn't cope with that. That Brumbies scrum, admittedly, a bunch of those penalties were at scrum time because they were going backwards at a rate of knots. I mean, they lost two of their own, two out of five scrums of their own feed. Yeah. So the fact that the Rebels couldn't use that to go on and win it really is poor. As Aaron says, Brumby's pretty good at rolling maul. Absolutely, that's where all their go on, Archie, waving your finger.
I was just going to say, waving the finger around. Again, people on waggling my finger, but no. But it was great that they finally actually so everybody knows that the Brumbies have an excellent rolling maul, right? Whoever they play, their rolling maul works very well against anybody. Even the defense, the guys that can defend a rolling maul, they are quite successful. One thing they did, they actually looked to set the rolling maul, passed off to I can't remember, was it the hooker who actually did the inside pass to the winger that actually had the inside run to the try line. So a variation there, utilizing the fact that the Rebels are expecting them to maul it, rolling maul happening, and they actually changed it up. So it's giving them an opportunity to run a few other different types of plays to keep it a bit of a mystery for them.
It is. I mean, we still had at least Lower Morgan. So 4 out of their 5 tries came from line out maul and then a deception piece, or a line out maul, drive it over. So only 1 of their 5 tries came from open play.
Right.
So look, they know. Yeah, as you say, they practice it clearly, and are very good at it. So oh dear, Stephen Harris, the game was so bad. Phil Kearns actually kept me from falling asleep. Phil Kearns was awful. I'm sorry. Yeah, we've already talked about that. The Rebels actually didn't start playing till around about 54 minutes, and then suddenly they started playing. They started running the ball, and got themselves right back into. Well, actually, took the lead. Got within 1 point.
1 point.
So you've got to say that actually, they were. They suddenly just turned it on and started playing some decent rugby, and I don't know where really that came from, and also I don't know where John's come from. John, 8 o'clock. It's 8:34. Seriously, what time do you call this?
I hope he's only getting paid pro rata there, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you've lost you've lost you've lost
half your pay, half the paycheck,
5% of your pay.
I'm clearly on beach time here. That's the problem.
Look, I sort of think going back to as I said, the Rebels, I felt like some of their early penalty shots at goal, they really needed to actually kick to the corner. There was times when they were sort of starting to get a bit of a roll on. They get the penalty and they'd kick to the corner, and it's just like, yeah, I'm not sure that was the right choice. Or as you said, they were having scrum dominance, so why not go for another scrum penalty? I mean, like, we've talked about everybody's favourite team, the Crusaders. If they get scrum dominance, what do they keep doing? They'll put a scrum down after a scrum on penalties, looking for a yellow card to come out of it for persistent infringement. So, the Rebels just didn't take advantage of their scrum dominance, did they? Like they should have.
Look, if I'm going to sum this game up in like two things, I'll say the team that should be the team that should have won it by quite comfortably will be disappointed, and the team that shouldn't have done very well should be quite happy, because the Rebels did a lot of things in that game that they really shouldn't have done. I mean, they scored a rolling maul try themselves. No one's done that against the Brumbies for like at least a year. They won scrum penalties against the Brumbies. No one really does that in Australia against the Brumbies. They did a lot of things that they probably shouldn't have been allowed to do. So the Brumbies should come out of that game going, we were pretty lucky to come away with this victory, because the Rebels actually pushed them really hard once they woke up, once they got that confidence, and we were like, we're actually getting a little bit of ascendancy here in the pack. We're actually getting a little bit on top of these, immortal forward pack from the Brumbies. We're actually getting a little bit of go forward ball, and that confidence breeds amazing things. And that's what they got from that. And the players just started evolving. They started getting better. And from that, tries keep coming, more confidence. And hello, you're in a game. And then they got scared. The line-out fell apart. And the rest is history.
I'm nodding so much with Steve, I'm worried my head's going to fall off.
It's very easy to agree with good-looking Steve.
Took 3 minutes.
No, look, that sums it up, doesn't it? You're going to be disappointed if you're the Rebels. You're going to be going to work on Monday going, that's a game we should have won.
Well, I think the Brumbies will be going home and saying that's a game we should have won by a lot more. They led by like 26 points to 6 or something like that. They were creaming them. It was a non-event. And so let them come back to that 1 point.
Maybe the Rebels and the Chiefs should open a support group.
Hey, yeah, but just on Jordan's comment there, although we've mocked the Super Rugby AU, I worked out that's the periodic table for gold, and it's like, so hey, I worked that out watching the chase. But anyway,
and their colors are green and yellow, not green and gold.
Yeah,
yellow.
But anyway, so like, but Dave Rennie's got actually out of that. The 4 teams, and we've still got to watch Western Force play. There's still, you'd sort of say, there's enough talent to put a good Wallaby side together. Wouldn't you? Oh, Steve's laughing.
I mean, there's a bit of talent out there, but I mean, you're putting a lot of talent together from a lot of different places and a lot of different systems and a lot of different styles. They all play quite differently, don't they? I mean, the Brumbies, clearly, they play with that pack. If they do something special in the back, so like it was good to see that first try come from a backline player, but I mean, it wasn't very backline expansive, was it? So they play like that. And then, the Rebels are going to try to do something different. Who knows what the Force are going to do? God, that's going to be exciting to see next weekend. But we'll see what they do. I mean, Reece Hodge is kind of reminding me of Geordie Barrett about how he influenced that game as well. The thumping punts, I think, is going to be a thing that comes in quite on, because he took quite good use of that new rule from the 22 to 50 kick. So that changed the game quite a bit. And I think if you want to be critical of these rules, it's good. But I do think that 50-22 or the 22-50 kind of kick does have that ability to quickly change the game from a team that's under pressure, and then bang, you've got an attacking line out in your opponent's 22. You go from under the pump to on the attack in, the space of about 6 seconds. So, yeah, some of the rules are a bit dinky and dumb, but some of them, I think, have a little bit of a potential if you want to, but it's kind of forcing the issue a little bit, isn't it? I still think.
Do you know why they want to do that rule? Sorry to
NRL.
interrupt, Paul.
So go on, John.
I said the reason why they want to bring in that rule is they want to try and create more space on the outside, because what's happening is a lot of the outside wings are coming in. So what you're seeing is a selection of a very high speed wing, which comes from outside to in, and then they're trusting him, if the ball gets floated over him, that he can turn and chase quick enough. Now, if you got that kick that you're talking about, the one from, what's that game called that is make-believe rugby? What's it called?
From League.
League, that's it. If you bring that kick in, that open side wing defender has got to fall back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got to drop back to try and prevent that from happening.
You got to have basically 2 or 3 fullbacks in place to cover the kicks coming back.
That's clearly the theory. We'll see whether that actually eventuates. I mean, the first game on Friday night, they really didn't get it right. They kept on forgetting which part of the pitch they were in when they were trying to do those kicks, and it just didn't pull it off. Saturday, though, as you say, Reece Hodge, with that extra length that he gets, they did manage to kick it further, and we did see it a lot more come into effect. Alex asks, are Force players able to play for the Wallabies? Yes, they are, but they generally all the Wallabies players have moved to Super Rugby. There are a couple now who have come back and going to play for the Force this year. So it'll be interesting to see if Rennie does pick anybody from the Force.
Just the Force must just win this competition, please. I just would love that so much.
Yes,
it would be so nice to see. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. I'm afraid they were playing in Global Rapid Rugby, which was against minor 10 Cup players, and they weren't massively dominating it. So they just don't have the cattle.
Hey, come on now, Andrew Callaway, the former player of the Waratahs, played for Counties, who lost to Southland last season. Now you want to talk about former players? He doesn't fit that bill, so there's always that small hope that the Western Force can do something special. If Callaway can be a former player of Super Rugby,
there you go. He's continuing his rich vein of form.
But losing to Southland.
So can they upset can they beat the Waratahs? Yes. Will they beat the Brumbies? No.
Look, the Waratahs couldn't organize a choir in a convent, and the Queensland Reds they forever with some internecine strife within this person, angry with that person who doesn't like that other person on the board with the local club, and they're constantly bickering among themselves. The problem is the Brumbies, and that's because they are a well-run organization, and they have been for a long, long time. So. Yeah,
well, apart from when there was the federal fraud investigation as to how they sold their training ground to the university and then rented it back for 99 years. But apart from that federal fraud investigation, they've been pretty good run. But I'm not quite sure how that one finished.
You could argue that the Mafia is a well-run organization, but it's another time.
Yes, true. Anyway, so that's the Brumbies 31-23, and all signs are the Brumbies will win Super Rugby Gold, as Ashwin has renamed it for us. So we're looking. So good luck to them. Then we roll on to today. Not sure.
Yeah.
Chiefs
with my Chiefs jersey on. What happened today? They were all over the place.
That was a hard game to get into.
I'll be honest, I missed the first 15 when we had, but I've seen Wick's.
You didn't miss much.
Goal.
You really didn't miss
much. Positives from this. Well, look, Geordie Barrett is really in form, and as you say, Ashwin, getting players away quickly and releasing them. He had a decent game today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like he sort of like was that calming influence on that seemed to be missing in the Hurricanes backline. So and yeah, everything that he was doing was coming off for them really well. And then just the icing on the cake, although it was at the end of the first half was that they're calling it. We would have been 61, 62 meters if you actually worked out the got your protractor out and worked out the actual angle and everything. That would have been a 61, 62 meter kick at goal for 3 points that he got just before half time. I mean, I know the Chiefs are whinging about the fact that it's supposed to be 10 meters back. If he'd kicked it from 10 meters back, he still would have got it. He would have got it.
I think that also probably shows you the headspace that the Chiefs are in, right? Listening to a podcast today on my driving is that look, one of the things players need to be able to do, and coaches also, is you make a mistake, bottle it, move on, do the next thing.
Move on.
Last week, we saw there was the Chiefs had a problem at the breakdown, start arguing with the referee, and when they shouldn't be doing because it's a line out, quick line out try. They're not stop. Something goes wrong, get rid of it, move on to the next thing, and do it right. They're not doing that at the moment. I think mentally, the Chiefs are in the wrong place. In fact,
yeah. Look, I mean, what Alex is in the old chat room and YouTube, and the Chiefs are the new Blues, and being a Blues fan, you can see it. You see it across the Chiefs game. It's exactly what the Blues were doing prior to this year. Is the fact is that they get into positions where, by all rights, they should score an easy try, and they make some stupid little error. And they had that a couple of times today, particularly after Scrafton was sent off for the second time. It's just dumb, making dumb decision making and poor decision making on the field, and I suppose it's actually worse than for the Blues because you've got a player like Aaron Cruden at 10 and Damian McKenzie at 15. That's a lot of experience in your team to help you get the decision right. And again, the axis, we talk about the axis, right? And it's like Brad Weber at 9 as well. I mean, obviously Triple T came on afterwards, but it's the Blues have always struggled in that sort of area because they haven't had that experience in the key positions. But there's no excuses for the Chiefs in that regard.
But this was another game.
The Chiefs have got a.
Go on, Job.
So I was going to say that the Chiefs have got an issue through the axis of the pack. So they've got an issue through hooker, lock, and number 8. So their number 8 is very impactful size-wise, but I'm not sure on the foundational stuff like positioning of his feet to make the ball available for the scrum off at the back of the scrum. Those fine little nuances, I don't know if he's on top of them under the pressure, under real serious pressure. I'm not saying he's bad, but I'm just saying compared to some of the other number 8s. And you could see in the try that was created by Ardie Savea, which they did very cleverly, by the way. They didn't run Savea off the back of the scrum early on. They did it late in the game, bang, and they turned it into across the advantage line and a try. And it was like a surprise move. But you could see how quickly Ardie Savea got outside of him when it comes to acceleration. So they've got that issue. But I do think, though, that some credit needs to be given today to the Hurricanes' defense, because I thought their defense won that game. And they were outstanding on defense. Corey Jane is obviously doing something right as their defense coach. And especially for the first, 50, 55 minutes, what the Chiefs were doing is they were very much depending on the second channel. So that they would pass the ball to the first forward, and he would quickly offload or a quick short pass to another forward outside of him. And they had stacked that channel. They'd obviously done some research and some game tape, and they were just drilling that ball carrier 2 out. As it was flipped to him, he had often had 2 tacklers on him, driving him back. And where the Chiefs started making further inroads is when they stopped trying to do that. But by then it was 25 minutes left of the game, and they started trying to make yards immediately around the ruck, including Weber trying to break. And then because there's always space somewhere in a rugby field, but they didn't, it was kind of poor that they didn't identify that their main planned area of attack was being cut off all the time.
And you talk about the defense, like 90% tackling from the Hurricanes. They forced the Chiefs to give up 18 turnovers. That's right, 18. They really had a good game
You have
in
to say-
an area.
You have to say Duplessis Karifi gets away with is getting away with it. He's still coming in on the side when he's joining rucks, and so for pilfering the ball or jackling the ball, it's like I saw a classic one today. Where it's just like he's come directly in from the side, doing a sideways shuffle basically into the ruck situation, and it's just like that's classically what they're trying to pull up on, and this is like he got away with it a couple of times today, but. More key to it is the fact is that I think the Hurricanes also made. I've knocked them for their team selection in the prior games, and the fact that they keep picking Vai Fafita in the second row when they've got someone like Scott Scrafton that's not even making it into the team, and they saw the difference when he's on the field that Scott Scrafton actually makes. They lost after he was sent off for the second time. They lost the next two lineouts because off their own throw. Scott Scrafton is a major piece in the Hurricanes forward pack, and they need to select second row players that can give them grunt to go forward as well, and back up the defensive efforts.
Now you raise an interesting point there, Ashwin, because I've noticed in the commentary how when All Blacks are playing, it's certainly high profile All Blacks are playing, then there's a huge amount made of when they do something right, and very little made about when they do something wrong. So the first two pieces of action that Geordie Barrett had is he really fluffed two up and unders that he was supposed to take on defense. Nothing said about it. Everything else that he did well in the game, whoa, fantastic. Now, the point being here, he's back after months, and two mistakes in his first two attempts at touching the ball. It's very understandable. But Dane Coles, the thing that concerned me about Coles is that he's a leader, he's experienced, he's throwing in at the lineout. They've just lost their number one lock and he overthrows his target. So it was vitally, that could have cost them the game because they could have, if the Chiefs had finished, they could have won there. And the thing that concerned me is that he didn't set up properly for number two. He didn't secure a ball. He didn't take the low attacking option, but the low risk option. Yeah, he took completely the wrong option twice. And then afterwards, he's the man of the match. And I'm thinking to myself, come on, man. Really?
And I didn't realize he was man of the match.
Yeah, I missed it.
There was a bit of chat in the old chat rooms on Twitter and the like about the two yellow cards for Scrafton. Both of them were correct. So the first one was for those who may not have seen it or are in doubt of whether he should have received any yellow cards. So let's go through them. The first one was he's jumped through the line out. Now that is a penalty. So he's jumped through the line out. You're not allowed to jump through the line out. You can jump to your line in the line out, but not across it. So he's jumped across the line, and then he goes and let me finish. And he makes contact with the halfback. So he's made two offences. He's first of all done the offside play, and then he's taken the halfback out. Now that, in a sense, is not the worst crime in the world, but it's off the back of a warning that the next penalty is a yellow card. Therefore, he gets the yellow card. The second yellow card is daylight. It's easy. It's an easy decision to make. He's inside the 10 by a long way, and he's tackled the player coming through that would have scored the try. So the two yellow cards were correct, and therefore, because it was the second yellow card, he got the red and became the first player in Super Rugby Aotearoa to get a red card.
And he wasn't replaced because it was 20 minutes at the end of the game.
If only we'd gone to extra time.
Now, to be fair, Kane did get lucky. It was a shoulder. It was late. There was not much right with that tackle at all on TJ.
It should have been a yellow,
and that should have been a yellow as well. He got away with one there. But I totally agree. Sorry, Alex, we're going to disagree here. Both Scrafton's yellow cards were yellow cards, they weren't the most. They weren't dangerous. They weren't malicious. They weren't the worst yellow cards, the worst penalties in the world. But the what he did, when he did them, how he did them, were correctly yellow cards.
Oh, the first one was very minor offence, a penalisable offence, but it's off the back of the team warning. They'd
Yep.
quite clearly been told the next penalty is a yellow card. And unfortunately, it was a very soft penalty, but it was a penalty.
Now, this game really came down to probably about 3 minutes at the end of that first half, in all honesty. Up until then, as much as the Chiefs...
Sorry, Aaron's comment about not being able to sin bin an AB's captain.
Very true.
Can I just say that card, that decision, I thought was very much based on reputation, that he didn't get a yellow. And because he's not known as that kind of player. And on the one angle, in his defense, I did think, I wonder if he was trying to actually get around Pereira to chase the ball. And so he pulled his right arm in and tried to get around him like this. And then he took him with the shoulder to try and get out of tackling him, try and get around him. But still, I think that was very much a reputational decision, right? Good reputation with the refs does count for something.
You're being very kind there, John, but no. I don't think.
Pereira was just talking too much. He just wanted to shut him up. Just give him
a nudge,
shut up, PJ. Get out of here. I mean, what I found really funny too about those yellow cards, just before we wrap up on them, was the face on the referee when he looked at his assistant referee and goes, "That was 5, eh? That was 5, wasn't it? Oh, that was 5. That's a red." Oh, he was so happy. It's like if it was 7 or 8, he would have just been like, "Oh, yellow card." But he was the like, "That's 5."
The only thing that was missing from that wasn't Angus Gardner, right?
Yeah, we got a good dosage of him, didn't we, in the weekend as well? Oh, it looked a bit sadistic. I thought he was stoked. He's like, "Yes, I'm in history. First man to send a red card in Super Rugby Aotearoa. My name is forever there." Yeah, Scotty, sorry. See you later.
Well, sorry, stop press, folks. Thank you very much to Utamo on YouTube, who has given us a super sticker for first off for $3. And then another one for $5. So,
thanks, mate.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Thank you, Tomo.
Thank you.
The
beers on Paul.
We're getting 1 glass and 4 straws.
I only get a half.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
At 30.
Yeah, he was only half here.
Half a glass for coming in. Yeah.
Won't be late next time.
Yeah. So in that 3 minutes before half time, look, Cole's intercepts. So up until it's like 3:10, it's still pretty close. In the second half, the Chiefs actually outscore the Canes, but can't close them down enough. It's really Cole's interception and then that Geordie long range thing, and it's gone. Similar to one of the other games where, again, similar to the Highlanders Crusaders. Suddenly, that's a real close game until the last 4 minutes, and then it's gone. These games are being decided on some pretty close, or basically teams switching off and losing it for a couple of minutes, and then it's you got to say that's a real problem for you. It's a team that concentrates for the full 80 that is winning these games in Super Rugby Aotearoa. That does, and you can laugh and shake your heads at that. But my pronunciation.
By the way, Paul.
Yep.
That interception was another example of trying to work the ball to attack in the second channel, and Coles went straight for that channel, and that's why he got the intercept. So that when they went to that blind side and they went to that second channel, he was charging out of defense straight to defend that channel, and that's why he got it.
Yep.
It's all kicking off. Goodness gracious me. Look, well, Paul composed himself. I'll add something here about the way this game went on with the bench. I mean, the bench was a massive factor on this for both teams. I thought for the Chiefs, let's be positive for the Chiefs for just maybe 30 seconds, shall we? The bench, Taurirangi, really good off the bench. I thought he had a great impact. He had a lot more spark. Brad Weber probably hasn't offered them this season, unfortunately. And Solomon Alomalo, get him on a full 80. Goodness me, that guy is just something else. He just has that ability to beat defenders, to beat tackles. He's got the pace, he's got the power, and he can change a game single-handedly. He doesn't need none of this McKenzie sideways running, who was slightly better, but he just can make something happen out of nothing, and he goes forward. So he goes forward, first touch of the ball, he made about a good 8-10 meters. The Chiefs built on that. They were going forward. The Canes defense was going backwards. It couldn't reset quick enough to come forward again very quickly afterwards. And they kept on that. And for about 2 or 3 phases, they had that continual effect of his run. So he's massive. He's got to start every single game for me from now on. And even Brad Weber, as much as I love Brad Weber, he's probably under threat from a bit more spark from Tahurirangi and that impact off the bench. So same goes for the Hurricanes on the other side of the thing. I thought their bench was pretty impactful on the other side, but they were already kind of in control throughout the rest of that matchup. So need more from that. And what I found really weird for the Chiefs and disappointing, didn't see Sean Wainui till about the 60th minute as a guy they probably do rely on to give them some good form momentum, and a huge shame for the injury to Akui. I mean, that stopped the game for a long time, but I think he's been their best player in the Chiefs jumper this season. Come from nowhere, in an area they're getting absolutely smashed in that second row. Sure, the line out hasn't been fixed by it, but around the field, he's impactful. He's a strong carrier. He does a decent enough job at the set piece, as good as he could possibly do with the team that he's playing for. But I just think he's a real future talent, and it's a shame. It's a real shame he's gone down injured. It really didn't look good because it was a long time to get him off. So a real shame for him.
So, with Alamalo, do you think with ALB, we don't know whether he'll be back next week? It is a concussion, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
so, do you think, do you put him in at centre?
No.
You put him on the wing, stick with him on the wing?
On the wing. No, just put him on the wing. He's a winger. Just put him on the wing.
No, he is a winger. Absolutely.
Don't worry about it. I mean, you're just going to break him. I mean, just give him the ball anyway. If he wants to come in and do some work off the wing, then that's fine. He can do that. But just the ability, he can beat players one-on-one. And if you give him that opportunity one-on-one against, like a Wes Houston or something, like he had the opportunities tonight, then he can make that happen and he can break those tackles. So that's what you need him to do. In midfield, it's a bit congested. I think they'll lose something by that, and he probably doesn't know what to do. Leave him to what he knows. And if you have to, leave Tamura Manu in there. He's a decent enough player, although the midfield was pretty invisible.
Just the Akui incident, what happened there? Because I left the room for a couple of minutes, and I came back, and there was a big hold up in the game.
They didn't show a thing.
Just go to the toilet first. That's what you must do.
Unfortunately.
Your commitment. Go to the toilet before the game.
These things happen. You have no timing.
I missed.
What happened? What happened? Yeah.
No, nobody knows.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, they didn't show anything. They didn't show anything. Off. It took about 3 hours. There was never one camera on him the whole time. And there was a report from the sideline saying that he was okay, but no mention of what the injury was or how bad it was. But he was okay here.
Oh, he took a head knock. That's right. Because they mentioned, he's lucid and he's talking. He took a head knock, a fairly serious head knock.
Can I just ask? Before I go, gentlemen, can I just ask, in your discussion of the previous game, did you speak up? Wait, no. It's 9 easy, Texas. I just wanted to know if you spoke about 2 players that really stood out for me in that previous game, which was the I think is it Scott Thomas, the 7 for the Crusaders?
No. Tom Christie.
Who
Tom
plays?
Christie, yes.
I was close. Scott Thomas, Tom Christie. It was close.
Around the wrong way.
I thought he was really good. And Shannon Frizzell.
No. Wait. Time out. You can't come in late and then regurgitate the stuff that we've already been over. We've talked about how Frizzell was out of this world.
Look, the fact that you've agreed with me just shows that you're right.
Hey, wait, one more thing. One more thing before we wrap up. This is a question for all of you, but for Ashton specifically as a cricket man. Do we need a rule in rugby where you have to be inside the field of damn play before you take a kick and put it back in the field of play?
Absolutely. This
I don't
is
think
the most
you should be able to jump
change
from outside to inside and catch the ball.
Jumped up in the air, so I'm in virtual space, so I'm not out anymore. What sort of stupidity is this? When
Your
you know,
last
I
touch
think
should be in.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so if you can jump from the inside the field of play and jump out and maintain your Air Jordanness and whack the ball in, play on, fair play. But not jumping while you're in the air already out. That's just crazy. Absolutely
That's-
stupidity. And
Nocturnal
they
rights
need to
agrees with
review
me
that
as well.
urgently. So the World Rugby needs to look at that ASAP. They need to come back with a new ruling that is immediate and change it to what the old rule was, which is that you could jump from the inside the field of play, but you can't be outside and jump up, which is just, as I say, ludicrous.
Whatever your foot last touched is where you are. So if you jump from outside, you're outside.
That's it.
And I'm pretty sure it's the same in cricket, isn't it? That's the way it is.
Yep,
If you
that's
jump
why you
from
have to be-
inside
yes.
the boundary,
Yep.
you are
Yep.
inside the boundary until
That's
you
why-
touch outside.
That's why sometimes you'll see in cricket where they've caught the ball, they're gonna run over the boundary line, so they'll throw it as high as they can. They'll run over the boundary line, then they'll run back again into the field of play, but they'll make sure their feet touch the ground. So you can't go from outside of the field of play, jump in the air, catch the ball, but your feet haven't touched the ground, then you're still out. So you have to have had your feet touch the ground in the field of play.
Paul, I think the situation bothers Ashwin and Steve.
Oh, hugely! Oh, I'm offended. I'm offended.
Look, how far does it
think
go?
that
Do
they
you
have
just
a
stand
problem
like over
with
the
it.
hoardings and jump when you catch it and quickly throw it back in?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Absolutely. Stand on the other side of those bus shelters that they have. Jump up and do a line out, a gridiron throw back to the midfield, and it's like it's crazy.
Sit in the second tier of the stadium.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, jump up exactly. In the West, stand with the West, sit with the West End massive.
Tom. I'm not going to leave it to it.
Yes, I was thinking maybe you could give them, like their own little discussion show about just the sheer
Rage on
wrongness
rugby.
and invalid rage. Oh gosh. Meanwhile,
Oh,
the
look,
All Blacks have found
okay,
a
while we're on it,
blindside
then.
flanker.
We need to go back to the old rule where if it touches anything outside the field of play, it can't be a quick throw, and not
God.
just a player.
I'm losing the will to live. It's draining away from me. Oh gosh.
It's okay. You're old and you're allowed to go now.
I will neither confirm nor deny that I'm old. I choose not to, actually. Just ignore that as if my hearing aid wasn't working. Paul, if I was an All Black selectors, I would have had a very big smile after this weekend, because the one area where if they were to play the Springboks at some stage, the one area where they were looking to be man for man, really behind the box, was on the blind side of the scrum, with the Boks having the World Rugby Player of the Year, and rightfully so. And what we saw from Frizzell is just what you want to see from an All Black blindside flanker. So that was good news for the All Blacks.
And also competition from unfortunately he's injured now, but
Got Frizzell.
No, the Crusader number 6.
Colin Grace.
Yep, Callum Grace. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, there's so a bit of depth there as well, which is good to see.
Really different players though, like massively different player. Cullen Grace is a linker, is a worker. Old school sort of player. Whereas Frizzell is just a monster. He's a bully.
And he's got all skills.
What about Aaron's idea that the crowd can throw the ball back in? Maybe kind of a bit like when you're at school, you go fight,
Please,
so
Aaron.
push the person back in.
Aaron,
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's like
Aaron.
it's
Aaron,
like
stop it. They get them going again. You get them started. Look at them. They're starting to snort and come on. Yes, there we go. They started. Nostrils are flaring and just no,
they're just itchy.
Come on, Aaron. So, gentlemen, it was nice to see you for half of the show. Hope you have a good week.
You too, John. Thank you.
Cheers, gentlemen.
We'll have a good week as long as the Blues tip up the Crusaders, right?
Oh,
Oh, come on.
That's a week
Come on.
before.
Super Rugby, sadly, Super Rugby Aotearoa has become everybody playing for second place. Just like you probably find Australia's one is going to be about who comes second behind the Brumbies. Because as much as it grates my teeth to say the Crusaders just look a different class, and I'm going to tell you that I don't think it's because I've got a different class of player. I really don't. I just think that is an incredibly well-run organization, coaching staff, game plan. I just think that all together they play, and as a result, the whole becomes so much greater than the sum of the parts. Hats off to them. As much as it's irritating, it's really good.
You shouldn't be worried about the Crusaders, Ashwin. You should be worried about coming down the Forsyth Bar.
I'm not worried about it, mate. Bring it on. Bring it on. That's it.
Enjoy the depths with the Chiefs, all right? Enjoy the depths. Enjoy third. There's a Highlanders coming for you.
Have a good one, boys.
All right.
See
you guys.
Because I'm pretty sure that that Steve and Ashwin aren't finished yet. So
I don't know. What is it? Actually, I think we've run dry anyway, haven't we, Steve?
I mean, I could go on for hours. What's the podcast limit? 10?
Yeah, 10 hours, and then it shuts down, I think.
It's not charity, 24-hour charity rugby stream.
Yes. That's what we do at Guinness Book of Records.
I'm not giving all my stickers away to charity. Look, that's the first time I get some cash through, and you want to give it all away. Give me a break. Deary me.
We'll start now.
Oh, dearie me. Yes, we probably have.
Well, you could be a charity, Paul. That's all right.
I am a charity case. You're quite right. Where was I going? I did have another point and another question I was going to bring up, but you guys anyway talking about stuff. I forgot what it was now.
Didn't you have it written down in your notes?
No, look, I only had sparse notes for this one, whereas unlike the other games, which were a bit more in detail.
Dropping the ball there. It's a knock on. We have to put a scrum down, 5 out.
Yeah, I'm just like the Brumbies. I can't hold on to the ball. Dearie me. Any tackling was another big thing. Yeah, we talked about tackling, didn't we? Turnovers, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's all been. We've covered that all off. Right then. So, folks, just so you know what we're doing here on New Zealand Sports Radio, we start off with at 7 a.m. every single morning. We have the morning sports briefing. Then we have, and then this show is, I guess, the most chatty and the most banterish on a Sunday evening, when I guess we're sort of at the end of the weekend. We've kind of run out of we're going a bit stir crazy. But if you want to preview the shows, 8 p.m. on a Friday evening, we'll do that. Tomorrow night on a Monday evening, we'll have the Driving More show. Yes, I can afford to now pay my power bill and have heating. It's brilliant. Thank you, Tom.
Can you just become a sponsor of our radio station? I need a job as well.
We've got lots of shows on and stuff. Yes, but it's thank you very much.
Help out.
Go on.
I'll help you out. So in the mornings, sports briefing, 7 o'clock. Be there, find out all about your sports news that you need to do. Monday night, this is like rugby chat on the drive with Driving Mall. We've got Tuesday, if we can get some contestants. We've got Do You Know Your Sport? Wednesday night, we've got Standoff with the league. And Thursday, we've got one of the best shows on the interweb, that's Swinging from the Hip. That's all your cricket information that you need to know. Back around on Friday for a preview of what's coming up rugby-wise. How's that?
Yep, that's it. Aaron says, the alcoholic show. You know what? It'd be funny if I actually had any today. I haven't, though. I've been hot lemons and honey.
I think he was referring to Swinging from the Hip.
I was going to say, yeah, this is probably my first day without a beer or a gin and tonic in about, this year. Hey, dearie me. KFC for the boys. No, Jordan. No, we don't. So I'm not shelling out for those boys. They can keep them hungry, keep them keen. Oh dear. Thank you, Utomo. So do subscribe to the Facebook page, YouTube, or follow on Twitter. Also, you can listen to us as a podcast. Search for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcatcher, like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Acast. Thank you, everybody. Thank you in particular, Utomo, and have a great week, everybody.